I'm Warren Sprouse. You're watching, listening to the Bible Forum. We meet every Sunday night right here from 8 until 10 p.m. We are two-thirds of the way through. This is segment number 4. It's 9:30 in our economy. I don't know where you are in time and space. We are talking about world events in light of the Bible. And this whole thing about Kim Davis has come up this week. You know Kim Davis, right? Kim Davis went to jail this week. Hall of Famer Jim Bunning's little boy put her in jail. He's the judge there in Kentucky. And he put her in jail because she, as an elected official, is unwilling to issue same-sex marriage licenses. Now, keep in mind, this has been going on for a while. Kentucky has just changed their law. It wasn't like that when she got elected. Also, these people have 100 other counties they could go to. They don't have to come to her. And the early reports were that many of these people were coming from other counties. It wasn't people from Rowan County all told. It was people from all over the state who were coming to make a point. And Kim is in the process of making a point. And Judge Bunning put her in jail when the ordinary and common response to this sort of thing is to charge her with a fine. But he said he didn't want to fine her because he knew that her supporters would just put the money together, pay, and that would be it. He'd have to fine her again and again. And it wouldn't go anywhere. So he put her in jail. But you say, yeah, but she could still get out. No bail. He put her in jail, no bail. He's making a point. What's his point? His point is that as an elected official, you have a responsibility to honor the code, the tax code, the Constitution, the state laws, and so forth and so on. You are not the lawmaker. You're the one who follows the laws that others have made. Kim says, yeah, but it's against my conscience. It's against my religious belief, my faith, and I can't do this. Well, it turns out that Kim's been married 4 times, got children by at least 2 or 3 other men. A troubled woman in her youth and so forth, no doubt. But she's been saved. And it seems to be the real thing. Is she getting good advice from her pastor, or is she getting bad advice? I think she's getting bad advice. I think we have reached a point in this country where we really do not understand the difference between our deeply held religious convictions and the law of the land. And I think it's because we've lived in America for 200 and whatever years, where they weren't at odds with each other at all. But now they're at odds at every turn of the road. The lawmakers are moving us away from our Judeo-Christian ethic. We have already moved away from our Protestant work ethic. It's why we have so much trouble in our financial world and in the world of business and jobs and so forth, between people who don't want to work, don't have to work, people who want to work but don't work. What would you do if you were required as an elected official to go against your biblical convictions? What would you do? Well, you would be honor bound to resign. That's what you would do. You work for a company and they say you have to do this, and this is actually stealing, and they're telling you you have to do it. What do? You tell them, I'm not doing it. Sue me. And they fire you. That doesn't happen, does it? Yes, it does. And people have resigned their jobs for all sorts of things. I knew a man who resigned his job because his company began to make bar stools. Now, this was a while back. This was back in the 60s. Now, you know what a bar stool looks like. But they weren't just for bar rooms. They were for households. People were, in those days, in the 50s and 60s, they were remodeling their kitchens and they were putting in a little snack bar. And they wanted bar stools. I don't have a problem with the bar stools. He had a problem with the terminology. He said, name them something else. And they said, no, that's what they are. If we named them something else, nobody will know what they were. We want to sell the things. He quit. He was big muckety-muck in the company. He quit. Not sure I would do that. But I think Kim Davis has an obligation to resign. Or just have other people do it and her not be the one doing it. Of course, she says if she personally does not do it, it's not legal. And we all know that's not true. And if it was true, they can change that. We are living at a time when more of us are going to be called upon to respond. And maybe it's going to cost us something. We're going to have to stand up and say, no, I can't say that. No, I can't go to that place. No, I can't sell that product. We're not going to be able to call on our faith and just simply say, well, you know, you can't make me do something. It's against my religion. Maybe not, but I can fire you. You could, couldn't you? But then I will sue you because, you see, I have rights as a Christian, religious rights and so forth. You can't just fire me for what I believe. Yeah, I think I can. And they're going to try it, and they should. No employee has the right to tell an employer how to do his business, how to do his job. And I think Kim is really getting some bad advice, and they're, you know, I don't know what organization is behind her at this point, but there are several of these organizations out there that fight these battles for people. Huckabee's out on the stump saying, oh, she's standing up for her rights. I think he's wrong. Yeah, but he was yeah, I know, he was a pastor. But I think he's wrong. He's become a politician. It's become fashionable to stand up against these things in this way. I don't know where this is all going to lead, but I am convinced that you are going to be called on to take a stand one day. If you're in the job world, if you're out there in the marketplace, you may get called anywhere in your life. It may be something that your government's doing and you can't participate in, and you have to give up your license for some reason or other, some kind of a license. I don't know. We're going to see how it all sifts out, but don't be too hard on Miss Kim. She's doing what she believes is right. I just don't think that today we get good information. A lot of pastors today have been caught up in this idea that America and Christianity are so intertwined that one of them equals the other one. And we're going to make it, I don't know, some kind of a utopian environment here if we just get right with God. It's not like that at all. It's not like that at all. There are folks going around now, the current craze revolves around this idea of a third great awakening. A former professor of history by the name of William McLaughlin proposed just that kind of an event, but he said it has already passed. He wrote about this in the I've forgotten when he wrote about it now. I think it was in the 70s, 80s. But he said that this happened from the late 1850s until the early 20th century. That was the Third Great Awakening. Historian David Barton thinks we're in it now. David Barton is an American evangelical Christian conservative political activist. He's also an author, founder of an organization called Wall Builders, a Texas organization that desires that we as Americans understand that we are a Christian nation. I think he's the one who has a Bible out, the Christian Historical America, something I forgot what it is, Bible, and interspersed through that are all of these writings, pictures, testimonies, biographies, and of founding fathers that prove that we were established on Christian principle. I would argue that we were founded on biblical principle, not necessarily Christian principle, but it's a hair that you can split if you want. But Barton is the one who's convinced Glenn Beck. And Glenn Beck is now pushing on his TV show and on his radio programs this idea. Last week he made a little foray into Birmingham, Alabama, and there were at least two reasons why he did that. One was to honor the civil rights movement, Dr. King and his march there in Selma, Alabama, Birmingham, the church that was bombed and so forth, but also to preach, which he did from a church. And he preached to the preachers that the preachers needed to be more forceful on moral issues. And his logic was, how are we going to take back our country if the preachers keep quiet? Now that's my opinion as to his motive, but that's what it sounds like. A Mormon preaching to Christians, telling the preachers what they ought to preach. And try as I might, I have yet to find anything in the Bible about America or about the loyalty, that kind of loyalty to any nation from a Christian. We are pilgrims, sojourners in a foreign land, ambassadors to this culture, to this country, to this world. We don't belong here. This is kind of upside down. Beck says that every single one of us should read Ezekiel. If you see danger and you don't blow the trumpet, the blood's going to be on your heads. Well, that's true. The blood of everybody, he said, who could have heard your voice. He says, we know the Spirit of God speaks through the multitudes. We know that? I don't think we know that. In fact, I think it's the opposite. I think it's the minority, not the multitudes. He says, as far as God is concerned, he is one. He speaks one language, and that language is the human language. And, well, so much for an inspired, infallible, and errant text. In this crowd is a guy by the name of Mark Biltz. He's a pastor. He believes the convergence of blood moons is a sign from God that God is about to do something special, something dramatic. And he's going to do it in September, this month, or soon thereafter. And he bases his theory on the fact that the Bible declares the sun and the moon to be signs in the heavens. Well, it does say that. You can check it out in Genesis. He put them there, the sun, the moon, and the stars, and they are there for signs. But it goes on to say for seasons, for days, things of that nature. It's a clock. And also, as we've learned, for navigation. They're there for signs. He has interpreted the word sign in a very narrow way. he says that they signal the intersecting of God with human history. He has an elaborate system. It's compelling. If you read the book, The Blood Moons, he has an entire chapter on dates and times and when these blood moons appeared, and there are several other kinds of moons and the events that took place, including the destruction of the temple and all kinds of things like that. It's compelling. In this mix is a rabbi, Rabbi Jonathan Cahn. Some people think that Rabbi Cahn is a Christian. Other people think he's a Jew. He's a rabbi. Why would you think he was a Christian? Well, because he has a multi kind of church and, blah, blah, blah. I asked people who are in Jewish ministry, and they don't know what he is. But the rabbi believes the convergence of blood moons is a sign from God that he's about to do something special, something dramatic. And he's going to do it this fall. He does this based on the fact that the Bible declares the sun and the moon to be signs in the heavens. I read that the wrong way, didn't I? That was Biltz. He's writing about 9/11. Rabbi Biltz is talking about the Harbinger and about 9/11 events. He's written another book called The Mystery of the Shemitah, in which he suggests something special or dramatic is about to conclude this year. This seventh year when Israel is not to harm the land. The Bible specified that Israel was to leave the land fallow for the seventh year, 1 year out of 7. They didn't do that, and that's why they ended up in captivity. But he says that this is that year. This is the 7th year. September is the end of that Sabbath year. And we're going to see some things take place. He says he believes America has reached a tipping point, and he personally is calling for a period of prayer to begin on September 23rd in preparation for something that is akin to the Third Great Awakening. Another fellow by the name of Sid Roth, who's a talk show host on Daystar and on TBN, and something he calls supernatural. Sid is convinced that God is doing something, or soon will, where we will see stadiums filled with worshiping Christians, hospitals where severed limbs will grow back, miracles on the evening news, and God taking care of his people supernaturally. I say he's a charismatic. And then there's Rodney Howard-Browne. You know Rodney Howard-Browne? He's a South African charismatic who most recently staged about a 10-day or 2-week celebration of America's heart as a rally in the nation's capital. He did that this past 4th of July time. He sees signs that Jesus is near, signs that God is going to revive and renew America to spiritual greatness in order to do what? Well, it depends. It might be to evangelize the world so God can bring about the millennium. Or it simply might be to reap a global harvest of souls before Jesus comes. He's not sure which, but he's convinced that's going to happen. Do you see a pattern? Do you see a problem? Or are you just excited that all these people are on the same page? Did you get caught up in the hype? Some of these people might actually be Christians. Some of these people are clearly not. Some of these people know what the Bible has to say. Some do not. Some of these people have the Spirit of God within them to teach them the things of the Word of God so that they could understand, and others not. And they're all saying the same thing. What does the Bible say? Well, the Bible makes it clear that from the days of Jesus until the end, things are going to get worse and worse. And then Jesus is going to come. That's what the Bible makes clear. The Bible also makes clear the fact that there are no signs to mark the coming of Jesus. On my blog, I put a little banner that says, "Keep calm. There are 0 end-time prophecies regarding 4 blood moons." The Bible says, "An evil and adulterous nation seeks after a sign, and there is no sign given to them except the sign of the prophet Jonah." What was that? Well, Jesus said, "For as Jonah was 3 days and 3 nights in the whale belly, so shall the Son of Man be 3 days and 3 nights in the heart of the earth. The men of Nineveh shall rise in judgment with this generation and shall condemn it, because they repented at the preaching of Jonah, and behold, a greater than Jonah is here." And you didn't repent, you didn't see him, you didn't understand him, you didn't care. Jesus is talking about his own death, burial, and resurrection. How is it that Christians would stimulate a revival? Well, technically they can't. The Bible makes it clear that the Spirit of God brings revival or it doesn't happen. However, if you were a Christian and you were concerned about a revival and you wanted to see a revival, what would you do? Well, you'd write a book about blood moons. You'd have a meeting of preachers and others in Alabama, and you get them all riled up about moral issues. You'd have a national day of prayer. Get all these different people together, some of them saved, some of them not. Some of them Christians, some of them not. And you'd have them all up there praying together in a mixed multitude that God says don't do. You might do a thing like that. Or you might just pray for revival yourself and trust that others would be praying with you. And if you were to pray for revival, how would God answer that prayer? God would answer that prayer, your prayer, by telling you where you can start in terms of revival. How a revival could break out in your life and in your heart. You see, revivals are not scripted. Revivals are not planned by human beings. They're not organized by big national groups so that they can get on the evening news. Revivals are things that God sends, refreshment for purpose. Why do we get revivals? Well, we get revivals from God. The revivals that we've had in Christendom have come for 2 reasons. One is very similar to the other in that it has stalled a deadening effect. Revivals that moved people away from systems, religious systems that were killing them. We saw that with the Reformation. I'm sure there were other smaller things in history that I can't remember. But in terms of a major thing, the Reformation was a revival. We saw that just prior to the Civil War. We saw it in the century before. Each time, God is slowing down the effect of sin because his timing is not ready. It's not that God is doing this so that he can see, it's the only way he can get more people saved. No, it doesn't work like that. Do we need a revival now? If God is going to slow down our headlong plunge off the cliff, yeah. but it's only going to slow it down. It's not going to stop it. If it means that this is the only way God can get more people in a short period of time and he needs to do that, he'll do it. But it's not that America becomes stronger or any country you can think of. We have a wrong idea about revival because we have a wrong idea about the Bible, because we have a wrong idea about God. And when you look around at Christendom and you look around at Christian America or the West, the media and all the rest of it, be aware that you're looking not at what God is doing in the heart and lives of real, sincere, solid Christians, but these are marketing ploys. These are just people who have ideas, and they have ways now with the internet and TV, and they can get their message out. And they start a Twitter campaign, and things of this begin to happen. Not everything is what you think it is. Not everything that goes bump in the night is Santa Claus. And I'm not sure God is in the business of sending a revival now. I don't have the mind of God on this. But the way it looks to me that this thing is going south very, very quickly. I ran across an article just this week from a Southern Baptist past president of the convention who was either saying or writing, I can't remember which it is, but he was responding to a question, a comment, or just the fact that so many Southern Baptist churches and others are opting for the contemporary form of worship. And he said, worship has become a big claim in the 21st century church. But based on the reality of people's lives, the worship we claim to be experiencing is not truly affecting the quality of our lives, our families, and our witness. The reason contemporary worship produces such poor fruit is that it is worldly and fleshly. This fellow is saying that he doesn't see a problem with the contemporary worship movement, that it does not impact, it does not affect the quality of Christian life. It's a different way, and it's not necessarily a bad way. Look at the contemporary Christian movement. Look at the churches that opt for it. When they do, their congregations swell. They get more people. And that, quite frankly, is why they do it. When that happens, you're not attracting more Christians. You're drawing the world. And you're pulling people out of churches where they could hear the gospel into a church where they're not likely to hear it at all. Worship is a sacred behavior, attitude. It does not consist in the singing of songs. It does not consist in feeling good and happy and swaying back and forth and having a good time. Worship is something that's interior. It's you, it's personal, and me and the Lord. It doesn't generally happen when there's a lot of noise going on. In our town in Wilmington, when I was there was a large church. We used to call it the Taj Mahal. It's a contemporary worship kind of church. It was built around that idea. Southern Baptist. They put about 5,000 people in there, 4 or 5 over a period of 3 days, maybe 4 or 5 meetings, 1,000 each. And on the website, one day I saw that the guy leading the singing told the congregation, I know some of you don't like to hear yourself, singing. You don't think you can sing all that. Don't worry about it. This band is going to be playing so loud you won't even be able to hear yourself. And there was a cheer that went up. In other times, they've got balloons and confetti and they're throwing it up in the air. Other times, they were encouraged to dance, where they were. And there was never a sermon. It was only a teaching. And it was all about how to feel good stuff. But they call themselves a church. No membership. No gospel. I saw the guy present the gospel one time. It took him about 12 minutes to do it. 8 of those minutes he was apologizing for having to say you're a sinner. It was painful. We have a movement in our country that is not encouraging worship. It is discouraging it. And we have these men on the public stage who are trying to bring all these people together for a national prayer, whatever. And it's a mixed multitude. You do not have anything in common with that person spiritually. And we're supposed to stay away from them so that there can be no confusion between them and us as far as the watching world. But we're getting together. We're inviting them on the platform so they can pray. The Glenn Becks of this world, Mormons, being invited to churches to preach and to pray. It's an affront to God. The church is going underground. It's going to be a home here and a home there and a group there and a small this, small that. It's going to get back to the way it was in the beginning. And there will be real power in their worship. Will you be a part of that? Or are you going to be like the other lemmings running off the cliff, going to where the party is? You go to the party, don't look for me. I'm not going to be there. I hope you have a great Labor Day weekend. I don't know what you're going to do on Monday. I'm not going to do anything too strenuous. I'm going to try to lay low. I'm going to work on the Bible Institute a little bit. I'm trying to rework my book. I've got it in a smaller package with a new title, and I'm trying to get that out. You pray for me. And if you think about it, go to the website, sign up for the blogs. It's encouraging to me if it doesn't help you at all. And we'll see you back here next week. Thank you. Good night.